Welcome to a brand spanking new episode of Who Do You Think You Are? An exploration into how our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings create our reality. My name is Lastia Cahoot and I'm your host. I'm joined by my co-host on this show and in life, Glenn Sheridan. Every episode, we're joined by a special guest who inspires us to consider not only what we think, but how we think and how that thinking impacts our life experience. It's time to get this conscious conversation started as we ask today's guest, who do you think you are? Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand spanking new episode of Who Do You Think You Are? It has been at least 6 months. We have been on hiatus. Didn't mean for it to be that long, but we are so excited to be back. My name is Lastia Cahoot. I am your host, and I am here with my co-host on this show and in life, Mr. Glenn Sheridan.
Hello, everyone.
And once again, we have a super special guest that I'm really excited to introduce to you. But before we do, I'm going to hand it over to Glenn so that he can do a very gracious land acknowledgement.
Yes, thank you. We are now living in a new area by the Tsartlip Nation, which is part of the Wasanish-speaking people in the greater Coast Salish peoples. So we would just like to say how grateful we are that we live and play and have credible friendships and communication with people on these lands that have been traditionally cared for by the Coast Salish peoples. And we owe an immense debt of gratitude to these people. And we'd like to say, Haichka. Thank you.
Haichka. Thank you, Mahoney. And thank you to everyone who is tuning in. So, you know what? It has been a bit of a year. We are in a brand new place right now. And so we moved here when did we move here? September? Yeah, September. So like 3 months or so, settling in, but it sort of feels like even 3 months ago was about 10 years ago because so much has happened in the meantime. And so one of the biggest things is for me that I am back in consciousness studies, took a little break there for a year. And so I'm super excited that I'm finally in my last year of ministerial studies, back with Dr. James, back with the people that Dr. James Mellon has attracted into his orb. And one of those people is with us here today. And I'm so super stoked because this is one of my favorite new people that I have met in the last little bit. And so I'm so excited that she is carving out a chunk of her very busy day, very creative day to spend some time with us. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about her, and I'm just going to read this bio because it's one of the best ones that has come across my desk so far. So here we go. Uplifting, enlightening, and hilarious with a voice that can burn the house down. This guest is a songwriter and storyteller like none other. Deeply soulful, she sings of self-love, open-mindedness, and the holiness of everything. She is the creatrix of House of Love and Light, holla, and an online spiritual community that began at the beginning of quarantine. Or not and, that is what it is. She served for a short time as the Minister of Ritual for the Jubilee community in Asheville and has served as music director at Universal Spirit Center in San Diego, Boca Center for Spiritual Living Center of Charlotte, and Spiritual Light Center of Charlotte. Deeply involved with the new thought and positive music world, she plays at conferences, churches, venues, and festivals all over the country. And her latest recording is her 12th independent CD, Big Bang Break, a diverse collection of transformative anthems. Oh my God, anthem. Yes, totally. When I first heard that song, then I just thought I could see myself in a stadium with the lighters. Actually, I saw myself backstage, being like a roadie or something, but just like a stadium filled with lighters and people cheering and just jumping up and down. And oh my God, this woman is a dynamo and I just love her to bits. And I feel like I've known her forever. I feel like she is my soul sister. I am so grateful for you. And so without further ado, knowing there is so much more to dive into, dig into, and explore, Amy Steinberg, tell us, who do you think you are?
Well, first of all, I'm a very grateful being to be here with you and to be here with you both. And who do I think I am? I think I am a dynamic expression of the most high love. And she shows up and she shows off as my life, which is really cool. I have carved out and created this just kaleidoscopic world of art and music and friends and family and travels, and I am life itself is what I am. That's who I think I am.
Well,
Life and love.
mic drop there. I mean, having known you for like this amount of time, but feeling like you have filled my heart and exploded it wide open. Yes, creativity, art, music, life, love, like that's just who and what you are. And for those of you who aren't able to see this right now because you're listening to this podcast, I encourage you to go onto YouTube later and watch this because behind Amy, there are two of her paintings at least. There's this huge amethyst, what is that, like stone geode, whatever those
Mm-hmm.
things are called, just sparkling and just absolutely gorgeous. And Amy herself is just this kaleidoscopic expression of life and livingness in just like you are color, you are beauty, you are harmony, you are like all of these amazing things that I absolutely love. So it's no wonder that I see them all in you,
Yes.
personified, exemplified to the max. And I think that's why I just like gravitate towards you and feel so pulled in by your, dare I say, just animal magnetism is what came to mind right now. Thank
Ooh,
you,
I
Anton
love it.
Mesmer. That's ministerial class coming out here right now,
Right.
right? So yeah, so all of this, I mean, if you look at Amy's Facebook feed, every few days there's like, I just finished this painting, this is what it's about, who wants it, DM me, and then boom, within a couple of minutes it's sold. And you put up a post a few days ago or a couple of weeks ago that said you did 125, 145, 155 paintings in a year.
I can't remember the number. It was like I was shocked. It was over 100. I think it was 125. I
Yeah.
can't remember 150. I couldn't believe it. I was because I went back and I was like, how many? I'm curious. How many paintings did I paint this year? And I was actually impressed by myself. I mean, I didn't sell every single one of them, but I painted like over 100 paintings. Like that's absurd. So how cool is that, right?
Well, if yeah, because I mean,
Um,
I've painted one. Well, that's not true, but I did do like a major project for our 21st or
And you wrote a
22nd
book? I
anniversary. No, I'm
mean,
talking about a painting. I'm
apples,
talking
oranges, right?
I know, no, 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 but I'm talking about a painting, and it was for whatever wedding anniversary is nickel. And so I
25?
painted this
No.
beautiful blue background that just looks very oceany or sky or whatever. And then I went to the beach and I collected a whole bunch of rocks and pebbles, and then I found that were like all grayish and whatever. And then I went and got a bunch of Japanese paper that had either like silvery or nickel-y sort of stuff in there and cut them out in hearts and
Oh,
took sand and made
I
roots
want to
and a
see this
trunk,
thing.
and it's in our bedroom. I can go and get it.
You have to show
and
me.
um and then put the stones are on the bottom, and then did like the hearts out of paper on the branches of the tree. And this was like
I
our
love this.
marriage, our relationship, whatever.
Oh,
But
I
it took
love
me
this.
so
I love
long
multimedia
to
too.
do that. And I just marvel at the fact that you're cranking out music, you're cranking out art, you're cranking out holla every single week, and a meditation in the middle of the week. It's
Mm.
just like, and you're in ministerial and there's work to be done there. And you're about to tour, a tiny little bit with your new stuff. So you're just like, go, 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 go,
Well, I
creativity
think
nonstop.
according to astrology, all the planets have gone direct, and I feel it. It's like we have been inside for 3 years. I am ready. And I've also been caring for my mom. I think I've told you a bit about that. My mom had some surgery. She moved here to live near me. And then we found out she needed surgery right after she moved here. So it's a blessing because I'm here for her. And at the same time, it sort of stopped all of my plans.
Yeah.
And it's been this beautiful falling in love with my mom, and also and now I'm like ready to go. I'm ready to like get out and go back to California. I'm so excited to come out there and
Yeah.
go to Florida, do a couple trips. Yeah. And then who knows what the future will bring. I want to, I'm taking Dr. James's CPR right now.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't listen to it today's yet, but I really want to expand my global, how he puts it, global expectation for my life, because I think that I still think rather small. And when you talk about like a stadium and lights and everything, it's like I have to expand my consciousness to believe that
Yeah.
about my own journey. And that's what I'm doing in ministerial class, is kind of like I need to remove these blocks of like smallness and a very low ceiling and this type of thing. So I appreciate you so much, because you do remind me that like greatness lives within me, and that there's been many times I've cycled through like, ambition, meh, just
Yeah.
happiness is my ambition,
Yeah.
and then sort of put the big dreams of stadiums and such aside. And then, they reawaken. It's crazy. Dreams reawaken again. And it's kind of beautiful. So we'll see what's to come.
I wasn't sure if Glenn was going to say something, but he's muted. Stop. I am totally resonating with what you're saying, because for me, ministerial, you weren't there for the first class because you came in second or third class.
Yeah.
And at the very beginning, Dr. James said to everyone, by the way, the reason I'm teaching this class is because of Lesia. And I don't know if you've gotten to the part in my book where I talk about how absolutely crushed I was when Dr. James announced at the end of the last ministerial class that he was so blown away by how just extraordinary that class experience was, and how incredibly just amazing that collective was, that he didn't think he could ever teach a better ministerial class. So he was done. And
Wow.
I was like, what? and it was just but let's put this on hold, because it was in the middle of their TEDx 10 talks that they all were doing as part of their finals.
Mm-hmm.
And they were doing it live from Westlake, and it was only the ministerial students and Dr. James and a few other people, and everybody else was watching live. So we're watching this live and cheering everybody on and whatever, and in the middle of it he makes this announcement, and my heart just sank.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but I can't feel that right now, because I'm so excited for everybody as they're doing their talks, and this is part of their journey, and they're almost done and they're almost at the finish line. But I was so disappointed, and then went through advanced consciousness studies. And I mean, I write about that too, how it took about 3/4 of the year to sort of feel like, okay, this is my experience, this is what's happening, and I belong here, to oh my God, I totally fucking belong here. It doesn't matter that there's all these other big wig ministers around and whatever. And because of that, I wrote my book. I finally wrote my book. And I held that, sort of that vision in consciousness for so long. And with it was the speaking in stadiums, a la Tony Robbins, or having an Oprah type presence, or Joe Dispenza or something like that. And that's been there, and it has to be there. It has to be there, because the more I go, or the deeper I go into this journey, for me, I call it soul excavation. The deeper I go and the more I discover of who and what I truly am, the less I'm even able to think small anymore. It's just it's not possible. And so the thing that, sort of came to mind as you were talking was I've been through my book, I've now been invited to write a chapter for another book that is coming up on mindset. It's being published by my publisher. And so when I was first invited to do this, I didn't say no, but at the time I'm like, I have so much on my plate right now. I just don't know how I can fit this in, but I know enough to know not to say no and to sit with it, for a
Right.
few days. And the thing that really came up for me, which I think is going to be the basis for the chapter, is make a decision from your vision, not from where you are today. And that's what it's all about for me, because there's always
Well,
more.
there's something that confounds me personally, and I don't know if this is part of your experience, but when Dr. James asks, first of all, I just want to also give a shout out to Dr. James while we're talking about that, and say that your story is really moving, and I'm really glad that you kind of begged him, because you know how things unfolded with me and him was magical. How I saw him at a conference, and I've known James for years, and every time I see him, my soul lights up. And he's a very specific energy, and he's going to attract a very specific student. And I am one of those.
Yeah.
That is like, I don't think I could really learn from anybody better than him. Like, I think he's my guy, and I'm so excited. Anyway, but what I struggle with is he's asking over and over again in CPR, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Like, that's the question throughout CPR is, what do you want? And the thing that I struggle with, I hate to use that word, but that confounds me. I'm just going to say, it confuses me, is that half of me sort of wants to just have this life of like a sleepy artist, mountain, relaxed, very peaceful, very easy, right, existence. And then the other half of me wants this sort of, global domination, travel, become a rock star, go to Broadway, big. And those two things have stretched me out a little bit consciously. I don't know. And so I have to constantly be asking myself, what do I really, really want? And what do I really believe I can have? Because that's what I'm going to get anyway, right?
Yeah.
I have to work on my beliefs, right? So I don't know. It's interesting. It's so I love hearing people who have those big visions and who can stick with them. Cause for me, I kind of like vacillate. I'm just being honest. Like, I vacillate between like, I'm really happy. My life is like really good right now. Like doing Zoom podcast interviews and making records from my house and traveling a little bit, but I would love to have my music reach many, many, many more people.
Yeah.
And I don't know who that. Do you remember that song that came out recently on Stranger Things, and it went viral? What's her name? I'm blanking right now, but she's an artist from
Kate
the
Bush.
80s.
Kate
Who
Bush.
was it? Kate Bush. And Kate Bush, if I recall, if it's her that I'm remembering did this, she kind of wanted a sleepy mountain life. She didn't really want to do the whole thing. So she sort of like holed up, and I think it was Kate Bush that recorded her own records from her house in the mountains and just sort of did her own thing. And then look what happened, right? She had this like viral sensation and that's kind of like my new idea of like what could happen for me, that I could have all of that I could have sort of an easy, chill life and also still reach lots and lots of people with the music and not have to be like schlepping all the time and going and, the exhaustion, like you were saying, like I'd have so much on my plate and like that feeling of there's just too much, it's just overwhelming, and the burnout and all that, So anyway, I don't know if I'm getting off on a tangent, but I just wanted to respond to everything you just said.
Yeah, no, that's great. And the first thing I thought of when you were talking about, this or this is, well, who's to say you can't have it all?
Exactly. Like,
right?
exactly. And so it's finding a way to blend those. But I'll tell you, Dr. James, one of the things that he's put in my mind is that for my, you had your book for your thesis, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's going to be a musical.
Yeah.
And it's more and more coming clear that it might be like a 2-person musical with me and Dr. James, like in the vein of like a Greater Tuna, or like a something where we both play multiple roles. Or like, it was funny because I in my meditation yesterday, Waiting for Godot is sort of a classic. It's every theater person has to watch it or read it. It's like the classic existential. Have you seen Waiting for Godot or read Waiting for Godot, Lesia?
No, I haven't. I know what you're talking about, but no.
I've, I've, re- I've read it, and
Mm-hmm.
um, there are a couple of good film versions they did of it, and one of them came out when they did like an anniversary of Beckett, and they did like pretty much all of his shorter stories and whatever,
Yeah.
and during the film festival a few years ago. And yeah, it's it's a
It's a
bizarre
classic. So
experience.
my
Yeah,
my thought was, instead, so Waiting for Godot is sort of like Godot never comes, and it's like this idea that like there's no
yeah.
answers. It's very existential, and it's funny and it's smart and it's deep and it's weird. And I was thinking, what about being with Godot or being in Godot, like taking Waiting for Godot and flipping it on its head and being like me and for instance, me and Dr. James, one of us plays the conscious, one of us plays the subconscious,
Yeah.
like really going way out there, like being like getting weird. One of us playing the
Okay.
counselor, one of us playing the spiritually sick, one of us playing different things that are all new thought centric, but that are kind of echoing Waiting for Godot, Greater Tuna, like different. Is this fun? Like just the idea of it?
I have some notes.
Yes.
Really, just one. When the play is over and
Yes.
people are just about to leave, a spotlight comes on, and a person comes out to sweep the floor,
Yeah.
and it's Gal Gadot. But people
Okay.
have to
If we
notice.
can get her, that's a great idea. She's
Yeah.
gorgeous. Oh my God.
That's
Anyway, that
great.
was another sidetrack. But when I think about that, when I think about doing like a Broadway show or a play, I get lit up again. So I have to listen to that and be like, maybe it's that I don't want to be a rock star, but I want to be on the stage
Yeah.
doing theater, more of a theatrical expression. But all of it, you can do all of it, right?
Yeah. And you know what? Just as you're talking, what can just blipped into my head was, as you're thinking about, what it is that you want, what it is you really, really want, and you're going through these possibilities, you're opening up to just these ideas that are coming through, right? And so for me, with this book invitation, I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, people have been asking me, because my book was only released November 8th, so it's still just a couple of months
It's a
old.
baby. Mm-hmm.
And people are, how are book sales going? And for me, like the sales, it's great. And yes, I want to get it, on the New York Times best-selling list. Amazon is about sales. That's great. But New York Times, that's like, and
Right.
so it is my intention to get it on there. And so the sales are going fine. It's also about what that book now, the doors that it opens, and what
Mm-hmm.
I'm, sort of being invited to do, and the notoriety and the street cred that I have now, kind of thing, of being a published author. And one of the things that came up a couple of weeks ago that started bubbling up that I noticed was like this anxiety of, oh my God, like what's the second book going to be about? Like the first one hasn't even like
Right.
really
Right.
taken off yet. And then I'm like, I have no idea. And part of it, is like Dr. James, well, Lesia, your thesis can be your second book. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I want that. I don't even know well, now I do know what my thesis is going to be about, um,
What is
but
it going to be about?
then but then
Okay.
this, without even sort of thinking of like, oh, what's my second book going to be about? This opportunity came up to like, hey, do you want to write a chapter for this
Right.
book? Right. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, that's like not
It's
even
God
as
is
much
just gonna,
pressure,
we're
right?
in conversation with the divine. In other words, like we're putting these
Yeah.
ideas out there and we're gonna get answers. We're gonna get, doors are gonna open, opportunities are gonna, there's gonna be endless
Yeah.
possibilities. Yeah. And one of the things Dr. James said the other day in CPR that really also hit my heart was, he was talking about how he often thought or has thought throughout his life that this is going to be the project, this is going to be the musical, this is going to be the book that does the thing to make the thing, when he
Yeah.
realizes that's not it. It's every moment, it's every day, it's happiness is right here right now. There is nothing to get, to do or be or have that will make me any greater than I am right now. I am all God, all good, all life. And these carrots that we chase, this notoriety or ambitions or money or stuff or even relationships or any outside stuff, is not the it's not that it's not wonderful and rewarding, but there's always something new unfolding, there's always something new expanding. It's like there's no stopping point until our physical bodies decide to crap out on us.
You know, Glenn just posted in the chat, remind me, what does CPR stand for? And I just want to let people know.
Oh,
I started writing it down in my notes and I'm like, no one's going to see that. And then I started typing and I'm like, well, no one's going to see that. Core prosperity relief. That's the course. And I've taken it twice.
it's
Amy said you're in it
fabulous.
right now. Do you want to tell people what it's about?
Sure, yeah, it's 30 days every morning. Actually, Dr. James gifted it to me because I called him about something. I was going through something with getting paid for a gig, and I wanted his advice about how to ask for more money. And he was like, "Honey, what are you talking about? Do you got some stuff?" And he's like, "Let me just gift you this." And he gifted it to me, which is like amazing, right? And it's like $150 for like 30 days of every single morning 20 minutes with Dr. James, where he just like hammers all these questions and slides and ideas. And then there's also a blog where the folks who are in the class kind of put their ideas forth, and there's a lot. I mean, I haven't even sifted through the blog much because I've been so busy with other stuff, but such great ideas. Even just the question, what do you want, is so powerful. To hear that every day, to hear about what are your expectations of yourself, what are your, and prosperity. It's not just about money. This class is about the 4 quadrants, you know, all the different, their relationships, our health, our creativity, and our and money. So it's and it's really just like having Dr. James cheerlead you every day.
Yeah.
And remind you of the truth of you.
Yeah.
And kind of get the smallness, the bloated nothingness, just get it out of the way. Just let spirit be the primary moving, that, you know, talking about, we had that awakening in ministerial class about living from first cause, you know, living from first cause. And it's just, it's a reminder, like, who do you think you are? You better think you're all of it. You know, who do you think you are? You better think that you live in an abundant, opulent, prosperous universe that is always supplying every need, always supplying every, you know, extraordinary thing. I'm living love's life, which, by the way, would you like to hear a song from the new record?
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
And it's okay, this is perfect for what we were just talking about. So the first lyric of this song, this is called Love's Life. And the first lyric of this song is the latest is always greater than the last. And it's this idea that there's this that life is always getting better and better and better and better. So even when you think, oh, this is the thing, it's like, nope, something else is coming down the pike. Like there's always an expansive thing happening. Mm-hmm. And so the job really is just to stay in the moment and be as present as possible. And that's what the song's about. This is called Love's Life. The latest is always greater than the last. The future is always sweeter than the past. An ever expanding expression of the Most High, this life. My life is love's life. Alive in this love, we go deeper as we go. And as we grow higher, our souls reach below the waters of forever, this eternal flow, this life. Your life is love's life. So ride this moment as it unfolds. Inside your soul is a well of gold. You are everything that has been told. You are whole. You are whole. You are whole. Provided with promise, the beauty of the heart. Each ending is bending its way to a new start. This love is a beacon for all that we are. This life, my life, this life, your life is love's life. So ride this moment as it unfolds. Inside your soul is a well of gold. You are everything that You are whole, you are whole, you are whole, you are whole. The latest is always greater than the last. The future is always sweeter than the past. An ever expanding expression of the Most High. This life, my life, this life, your life is love's life. Whoa, 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 whoa. Love's life.
Yay.
Thank you. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
All right. I jotted down a whole bunch of lines, Honey Bunch, but I would love for you to really join into the conversation here. So hop in. Thank
Okay, first of all, anyone listening to this again has to go and watch the video at around, where are we time-wise last? I don't know, half an hour, to see Amy looking into the camera
Mhm.
because she means it. Okay, like it's incredible, that idea that it's you, but she's speaking from her. You are speaking, Amy, I think, from your personal inner reflection of this is what it's all about, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm a bit sniffly myself, so
It's winter.
but yeah, this idea of and something about what you said earlier about the planets going direct, which I don't really know what that means, but it had this idea of it brought in the image of the orbiting of planets and us in relation to other beings and celestial bodies, and we can see each other as that as well, and we can see ideas, concepts and ideas and beliefs and whatever. They're there all the time, but we're in a spatial context. It's like, oh yeah, let's map it out and have it like we're going around and we miss it for a long time, and then it comes back, oh, and it's like right there, and you can grab it, you can be that idea, you can, and maybe more to the point, you can be that feeling that you desire. That question Dr. James is asking, what do you want? And I've heard that, to me it's more clear when I hear someone like Abraham saying, like, what feeling is it you want to have, like at the end of the journey, when you get the thing, when you overcome the obstacle and you do all your planning and you get to the end result, you'll have a feeling. What is it? Because you can tap into that right now, right?
That's right.
You can imagine what it feels like, remember what it feels like to be in that love, if that's what you want to feel, and then just like jump rails to like what it is in context of where you are now, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm getting out of where you're coming from, I
I
think.
love the feeling tone. I love the setting rockets of desire, rockets of intention, all that Abraham stuff of like, what do you want to feel? What makes you feel good? Go that way. This or that, this or that, not it, not it, not it. I love that whole thing. Like if it feels good, move in that direction,
Yeah.
Um,
And I guess it's like, for me, the word selection comes up a lot and again, I'm have my struggles with this too. And, seeing how much Lassie went through with the book and during our tumultuous year or whatever. But it's the same thing of like, okay, so if you're just looking at it from a perspective of source, like who doesn't have any excuses, it's just there saying, okay, here's everything, which of this everything do you want, and like really mean it, then be it, do it, have it, and express it through where you are now, right?
yeah.
And the selection thing is just choice, right? It's just like without the excuses, Wayne Dyer thing, excuses be gone. Like, forget all that. It's just what is it?
Yeah. What do you
What do you want?
really want?
Yeah.
That's just it's a great question, and it doesn't get old. That question doesn't get old, and sometimes it changes, And also, what am I willing to do to get that thing that I want? Am I and am I even willing to just shift my beliefs around it? Like, for instance, this whole thing of success has to be hard work. Like, there's a belief there, and it's like, it doesn't. It has to be maybe the culmination of all the work I've done. Like, maybe I've planted enough seeds, and there's
Yeah.
just going to be some growth that comes that is just incredible and surprising. And
Yeah. Do you think the hard work thing that, many of us were ingrained with is like it's meant to be like a protective blanket for us. Like when we go out into the harsh world, it's like the winds are gonna bite you and all this kind of stuff. So you have to have your story ready, like, well, I fought my way up and I did this and I put my time in and all that stuff. But it's like a filter that goes over who you truly are.
I mean,
And
there's a couple
yeah,
ways I look at it. Like, there's part of me thinks like there's a patriarchal, like capitalistic, that side of it. But there's also this part of me that thinks that human beings enjoy working and creating. And the thing is doing something, working at something that I like. That's doing something that I'm joyful at. Like, hard work doesn't have to mean anything negative. I think, but I do think our story is something that we're building, and it does feel good to say, I did this many records, I did this many shows, I did that. I pounded the pavement. Like, I can remember just being so annoyed when American Idol first came out. Like, some little 13-year-old would get up there and sing a little song and all of a sudden be famous and a millionaire. And it's like, I'm playing the clubs and I'm doing this like pounding the pavement thing. And it's like, well, maybe something like American Idol is God's way of saying it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be
yeah,
hard. It's it, you
yeah,
know, it can be any way. You can have it any way. It can success and exposure and especially now with, my goodness, TikTok. I am so inspired by TikTok. I am so inspired. People who are 100 are famous on TikTok and exposed. I don't famous is a word that it's a little bit of ego and taint and grandiosity to me,
yeah,
but exposure for people to be able to see you and experience your art or your message or your work, even just your humor. Like, there's these incredible people all over. And what is TikTok but the expression of God just saying, like, here, you don't want to deal with a Fox or the big, you don't want to get an agent, just do it yourself. Here's exposure. Go do whatever you want, and you'll be seen and you'll be heard as much as you want to be, and you get to do
yeah,
create your expression.
yeah. I don't have TikTok, but
Oh, you should get it. It's fantastic.
well,
You
People
just
are like,
showed
I
me
don't get
something on
TikTok.
TikTok. Honey
I
Bunch, you just
I
showed me
did, but
something.
it doesn't mean I have to have the application. I can enjoy when they're cross posted to other,
Yeah, like if
Instagram or
they're on
Telegram,
Facebook or
whatever.
whatever. Yeah, no, it's a lot of people, it's China taking over. I'm like, okay, China's going to take over. Like, surrender. Like, TikTok away. I mean, Rome fell.
Well,
Like, it's
they get a very
it's
different,
okay.
their TikTok's very different. It's all about, working hard and like perseverance and like, because it's tied into the social credit system. So like there's none of the stuff we get. So I can see the argument of like
And
they're
your
trying to destroy
algorithm
it.
is going to be different than my algorithm. My algorithm is filled with plus-sized people dancing and new thought ideas, intergalactic phenomenon, jokes, um, and painting.
Right,
And
right.
then everybody, that's what I love about it, is that everybody has their own sort of experience of it.
Yeah.
It's very cool. I'm loving it. And it took me a while. Like, I had a friend who was telling me for about a year, you got to get on TikTok. I was like, yeah. And then I
And
did. And I'm like, and I'm not a big poster yet. I'd like to be, but I love the experience of it. And the knowing that any exposure or success is right there at our fingertips. It could be any of the social media that's out there, or YouTube. I mean, look at this. You've created your own thing. I mean, it's fantastic. It's fabulous. Holla is it's through Open Broadcasting System, OBS. It's this program that I learned to create all those pretty things that I do. And I mean, it's just an amazing time to be alive because I could reach out to you right now. You are across the country. I mean, this is nuts that we're having this conversation right now. Is it not nuts?
Yeah.
It's wild. I don't know. I'm like a little kid in the candy shop about our reality right now. I'm like, I can't believe I have a coffee maker.
Well, I'm drinking coffee, so I appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah.
Coffee that Amy made and somehow got transported.
Yes,
through the internet.
we can do the thing of like, here, there you go.
And soon
like,
enough,
oh,
you
thank
joke, but soon enough, beam me up a cup of coffee. It's going to be just like that. There's a quantum field, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Remember that? Remember back in the day when I couldn't get coffee from across the country instantly?
Yeah.
Right?
Those poor saps, how did they live?
What's holding us back from that?
Yeah. They call that living back then. It's incredible.
Star Trek made it up years ago. Beam me up, Scotty, right?
That's right.
Tiki! My dog is going nuts. Sorry if you hear a barking dog.
I do.
No. I hear noises, but
my dog barking at the neighbor. She's fierce. She's 5 pounds.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Smaller
She
than our
thinks
cat.
she's 45 pounds. Tiki, come here. I'll introduce you to her.
Okay.
Come here, baby. I think you might have seen her in ministerial class. I feel so embarrassed that she does this, but she's like, come here. This is my soulmate.
Okay, explain for the people who aren't watching this. Okay, and again, if you're not watching this,
black
go
Chihuahua.
watch it.
She's 11 years old, so she's got a gray face. But she is. This is Tiki. Her full name is Tikva, which is Hebrew for hope, which is of course the dirty New Thought word, which I love hope. And this is my baby, who is my cuddle bug, and I love her.
Your
I
protector.
got her when she was 1 pound.
Oh,
She now is full sized, of course, as she's 11 years old, but she's 5 pounds.
she is so
Tikva Steinberg, yeah,
adorable.
Tiki
Steinberg.
Tiki Steinberg. I just gave her a middle name just the other day because I was yelling at her. I said Tiki Ann Steinberg because that's my mother's middle name. Her name is Tiki Ann.
A quick aside here. I was watching a short. It was on YouTube, but it was the Norm Macdonald show.
Oh.
And he had this sidekick on the show who I didn't know the guy's name. I've seen some of the shows, but he had Seinfeld on, and Seinfeld comes up, and I guess the clip is just him explaining what Seinfeld saying the greatest Jew joke, like Jewish
Okay.
joke. And he said, I can't tell you. I could tell you, but you won't get it. So whatever.
Oh,
And
what was it?
Norm Macdonald's like, well, I kind of want to hear it. And he says, yeah, but you won't get it. You're not Jew. And he goes, well, he's Jewish. Like, he points to the sidekick. And he goes, okay. So he says, all right. So there are two Gentile businessmen, and they bump into each other on the street. And one says, how's business? And the other one goes, great. So, okay, I get it. But
I mean, I think it's
the other guy bursts out
be like,
laughing. And Norm's like, he says, exactly. There's no complaining. It's just
right. Exactly.
It's great. It's like fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's hard to be a new me and Laura Berman have created something that we've been fantasizing about making it into a full-blown show, but we haven't done it. It's called New Thought, Jew Thought, Oy vey, no way. We have positive thinking today. So we'll be like, New Thought, Jew Thought, oy vey, no way. I have positive thinking today. I'm going to express my gratitude. I went to TJ Maxx today and I found a wonderful $100 shirt for $5. God is good all the time, like that kind of thing, like playing with the whole Jewish energy of like, I'm kavishing and I'm vetching and life is so hard and but like changing it into the New Thought.
Right,
And
right. Yeah.
um,
Give the
it
spin.
is. I think a
Right?
lot of Jews are in New Thought because we're battling that
Mhm.
inner, just constant, oy vey, you know, because if you think about it, our genetics, I mean, we've survived the pogroms, the wars, I
Yeah.
mean, everybody's after us, you know, so we're the survivors
Well,
of the
yeah.
genetical word. That's not a
I
word.
think
That's not
I
a word.
think there's, I mean, you could make the argument that any peoples that have had, enough of a period of trauma,
Mm-hmm.
uh, they have maybe developed that sense of humor and the defensiveness
Yes.
part of the sense of humor.
Or habits. Like look at the
Yeah,
Irish.
yeah. Well, I was going to say the Irish, like we're well,
Are
okay,
you Irish?
yeah.
So are you in
Well,
AA? I'm
well,
just kidding. I'm sorry if I triggered you just now.
whoa, that's racist.
I'm sorry. But you think
Um,
about it, the potato famines and that's all they had, right? Was to make alcohol, right? And that's where the
well,
genetical
okay.
again, I'm using the word. I've just created the word genetical. It's not a word.
Um, yeah, no, I mean it's a complicated rabbit hole to go down, but I mean
Yes, yes,
because
yes, of
you
course.
have, I mean, think of it this way, like as you said, the many generations with the Jewish people have, and then with the diaspora you have the same thing, but it's like
That's right.
it's different iterations of it. So with the Irish, it's mostly, I like to think of it as like the British Empire, which is an extension of like the Roman Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they just turned and went, oh, these guys over here are like, we conquer the Scots, but
Mm-hmm.
the Irish
Colonialism,
was
yeah.
like the training ground, and just it was horrible, like for many
Mm-hmm.
centuries. And yeah, and then of
Look at
course
like
the
Irish
church.
dancing and Irish music and Irish all the beauty that comes out of the
Mhm.
discord. And that to me is God. God is the
Yeah,
alchemy that is happening throughout all of these, like anybody that's been oppressed or suppressed, that it's almost like
yeah,
the coal that gets ground into the diamond, you know, from the
yeah,
pressure, from the, I mean, Jews are the funniest, most successful. We are we are 1% or 2% of this nation, and we are the top
mhm,
lawyers, doctors, writers, directors. And it's not because there's a Jewish mafia. It's because
yeah,
we've been pressed into coal. I mean, we've just like everybody hates us. Like we just
yeah,
work harder and harder and harder, you know, to
yeah.
survive.
I was going to say that about like the well, Lassie and I were talking the other night. I was talking, she was like, what, I can't deal with this, it's late at night. But the thing of Jewishness, like, because I like to think of, I'm Irish in this life, but there are
Right?
many other parts of me in other lives and other
Yep.
times. So I can't, like, the degree to which I appreciate, say, Jewish humor,
Mm-hmm.
right? And even like art through like filmmaking, when you have, you know, even a producer of a film who might be Jewish, that the quality comes through to the point where like it's a perfect blend of darkness and levity.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like I grew up on the Marx Brothers, and like watching Elliot Gould, like these people, like turns out later
Yeah,
on,
it's in your
these are
it's
the
in
people
your
I was gravitated towards, were Jewish, like actors and writers, and
Well, odds are your genetics go back to Jewish. Like we're all either black. We're all black. We're all
yeah.
black. We all go back, right? Malcolm X. Did you read Malcolm X? I mean, the
Mhm.
human genome is from Africa. Like
Yeah,
we're all black. Like we go back far enough. We're all Jewish. We're all black. Right? So
yeah,
you probably
yeah. I
have
don't.
some of that in you.
Yeah, but even like non-genetically, there's another version of it,
Yeah,
like just in
spiritually,
your soul, right?
energetically.
Your soul is like, oh, over here, I may have been um in the the Palestinian area, the Palestine slash Judea,
Hmm.
over multiple lifetimes,
Who
as a
knows,
woman,
right?
as a kid who never made it past
I
five, or
believe it.
whatever.
I believe there's just many,
So
many lives. Yeah.
yeah.
I love that and I also, I often say that like all of this kind of philosophy and talk about like past lives or what the meaning of life is or God is much like ants crawling on a keyboard trying to type out computer code. Like
Yep.
we don't know anything. Like I don't I feel like we don't know. And there's probably many lives. And I love this idea now of have you heard this? Have you heard these things that say that we're living in a simulation?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
mean, my mind gets blown by
Yeah.
the possibilities of what really is the truth of what's happening. Like
I don't give that one too much credence, but I appreciate the, like, you
the
can
mind
go pretty
flex.
deep with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think my wife may want to have to just rejoin the
So
conversation.
what
I've
you
been
got?
talking for a
What you
long
got,
time.
Les?
I'm just on page 4 of notes. So
Taking notes.
I take notes because when I'm in this, then I'm listening, but I'm also thinking about, okay, where's the conversation going?
Mhm.
What's the next question to ask or whatever? And then when I go and just do the post edit, I listen and I hear it in a totally different way, but I do need to write a little blurb about, on YouTube so that
Yeah.
it can like be there. Or I like to, I don't need to, but I like to, so that if someone's looking, they can kind of, oh yeah, I'll go for this one. And then there are gems and nuggets and ahas that come up every single time, no matter who it is that we're talking to. So like for me, this is like a little mini class, like I learn stuff all the time. So yeah, I'm a note taker. So yeah, so there was so much to unpack there and so many different directions
Yeah.
to go into. But the one thing that I want to kind of come back to is sort of the whole notion of what do you want? What do you really, really want? What do you want to feel, from like what it is that you ultimately want? And was that a Spice Girl song with what do you really,
Tell me
really
what you want, what you really, really want.
there you
Yes.
go. And was yeah, when I had a meeting with Dr. James a few days ago because I just really wanted to talk to him one-on-one, and we hadn't talked since advanced
Mhm.
consciousness studies. I was the only practitioner who didn't get my 15-minute meeting with him that he does every year just to make sure everyone's on track, because he forgot. But
Oh.
it never
Oh, I
materialized.
bug him. If I can't get him, I'll just text him over and over again.
And
He's busy.
so we met and talked about class, talked about my thesis, talked about some other stuff, and then I just, because it had been a while, I just said, can you just let me know how you think I'm doing, where I am, in all of this.
Yeah.
And he just and I said, first of all, Lesia, you're almost at the finish line, like you're 4 or 5 months away, and like you're going to have an REV in front of your name. And then, just like another year or so, and then you can be a doctor. And I'm like, let's just, let's just be where I am right now. But he said something, and he said, I don't know if you're ever going to have a calm, easy kind of life or ministry, blah, 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 blah. And that stuck with me. And then I'm like, okay, A, why would you say something like that? And then B, why would I buy into that? And so it just sort of, takes me back to you with your like this or this, and like, why couldn't it be, both? And the whole notion of hard, it doesn't have to feel like a negative sort of thing.
Right.
That work it can be work, it can be effort, it can be creativity, it can be expression, it can be determination, it can be intention, it can be
I mean, when a pregnant woman is pushing out a baby, like it's some work.
Yeah.
But there's a baby at the end of it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so yeah, so it was just so interesting when he said that to me, and I just thought, yeah, that's not
I
what
love
I
I love how you're able to sort of be in your space with it. And I think sometimes teachers can do that. They can just kind of poke at you and be like, well, I don't know if you're ever going to be as successful as you could be. It's like, what? Excuse me? I don't know. To me, that seems like almost his way of poking you. Like not in a bad way, but that's kind of.
He did say something about himself, because like he's
and he's projecting. Of course, we're all projecting. But
he's like a super high bar, right? Like he's got his hands and mitts and paws and whatever in like a gazillion pies all the time, all at once. He's running.
But like I'm tired thinking about his schedule.
And he has people helping him. right? Like
Yes.
he has people at both places who support him and
Mhm.
help him.
Right.
He's
Truth.
got this incredible, core, at both places of ministers and
Yes.
practitioners that are there, kind of thing. And then I know on his side projects, or not side projects, but things outside of the center, when he's writing and directing and producing and
Mhm.
all of that kind of artistic creativity beyond the two spiritual centers, he's got people too.
Yep.
And it
So
just,
inspiring.
yeah. And so, yeah, I sometimes I kind of like, okay, I can't think about all that. But I just, it was like, at first it was like, oh, why would you say that kind of thing? And then I'm like, well, thank you for saying that, because that's not a belief that I want to buy into.
Well, can I just tell you from my perspective of you, because I'm in class with you, and I
Yeah.
think you're the top student. Like you're the student. Like if you ask Lesia, like you're gonna get the answer, like, and it's gonna be clear and clean and calm. And see, so I see you as very calm and very grounded and very clear with what you know and what you translate. Like I've never seen him ask you a question where you even quivered or questioned for
The
a second.
counselor question, like the 2 days ago, it's because I raised my
Well,
hand
because I
to
just don't
answer
think you were clear
something.
about the question. I don't, I think it was, you were like, well, what do you mean? Do you mean, right? Because didn't you say, do you mean counselor, spiritual counselor? Or was
I
that not you?
I
How
was
did you respond to
thrown
that?
because I raised my hand to make a point on the last question,
Oh,
and
right.
then
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
asked me a
Well,
brand
that
new
was him trying to
question.
knock you off. Cause then he was like, well, let me ask you. And you were like, but I was trying to
Yeah.
talk on the last question, so
Yeah. No,
but I'm even that, even a moment of confusion that you might have is still, you're still sort of, I see you working it out. Um, you're very clear with, your principle, your spirit, your knowing, this in your bones. I mean, and that to me is calm, whatever that.
that
So
is
was the
so
word calm
interesting.
the thing that made you feel something kind
No,
of
the
way?
fact that he said that what I perceived or interpreted from what he said was that it was probably going to constantly be like go, 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 and no sort of space or pause or whatever, which is a lot of what I'm feeling
He's
right now, and
projecting.
which is
He's projecting. Yeah, that's not.
but it's so interesting what you just said, because that is not my experience
Yeah,
of how I feel in class.
yeah.
Like in class, I feel
Oh,
like it's like we have, first of all, it's such an incredible class. Like
yeah, it
there
is.
are people from, what do we have, 17, 18 of us in there, and
Yeah,
different, age gap,
yeah,
extraordinaire, from like
yeah,
30 something to 80 something,
yep.
and people from different levels of education, let's just
Mm-hmm.
say, on their
Yep.
spiritual
Oh,
journey.
yeah.
And
Spiritual education and regular education. We've got
yep.
doctors in there, right?
Yep. And then just, yeah, like everything that people are doing sort of like in their work lives, or the way
Mm-hmm.
that their
Yep.
creativity is expressed beyond,
Artists and psychiatrists, and I mean, it's crazy.
it's amazing. And it's
Yeah.
really interesting for me, because this is the second time, but it's a very different experience than advanced consciousness studies was, where there are people at all of these different levels
Mm-hmm.
together.
Yeah.
And I love it. I
Well, I
love
feel
it.
like you're at the top.
I I, I don't
I
feel
hate to do
that
that
way.
to,
I
and to,
really
I'm
don't.
not trying to feed your ego or anything. I'm literally just saying, like, you and Thor, like if you guys get
For
asked something, or my ears are just perked, and there's certain
uh,
people that, I really am listening for what they're saying and how and what they're doing, and I want to emulate, Holly.
She was just coming to mind, I'm like, Holly,
Yep,
like
Holly, and
Holly is,
I love Christy
oh,
too, but I thought it was very powerful what Rev James did for Christy last class, um, kind of poking at her.
mm,
He pokes at Adair. He pokes at you. He pokes at you.
yeah.
He's poked at me. That's what to me a great teacher does, is makes you question, and I think this ministerial studies, and I don't know if you know my story, but like he's kind of he's like the whole Emerson Institute is allowing me to basically, I'm not going to say skip practitioner, but I have not taken practitioner studies. So,
Hmm.
but I've made 10 records and I've been music
Yep.
director at 4 centers. And I approached Emerson and said, listen, I don't want to go to ministerial school for 6 years. I don't need it. I can give you a treatment right now that will heal whatever you have going on. I am a practitioner.
Yeah.
I have Hala. I have all these things. And Emerson, thank God, because CSL was like, no, because I went to
Yeah.
CSL first because CSL was my home for many years.
Yeah.
Um, and Emerson was like, yeah, that sounds right. That sounds good. And
Yeah.
James was like, come on in, baby, and of course it all just like is working out. But I'll tell you, because of that, sometimes I feel like, am I cutting corners? Have I done something wrong? Other ministers from other centers are like, so where are you going to ministerial school? Like, and I'm like, with Dr. James Mellon, because he's got a rep,
Mm-hmm.
of course, in different worlds because he rebelled and is doing his own thing. But I just believe that like I'm exactly where I need to be. And
Yeah.
my point of bringing that up was that I understand your own self-awareness that might be different than how you come off.
Well, and then we
Does that
all
make sense?
perceive, yeah. And then we all perceive how we perceive, right? Because it's
That's right.
all based on our beliefs, our worldview, the
Yeah.
lenses that we have on, whether they're rose-colored glasses or not. That was such an interesting
That
class
was
to listen to.
that was a great, yeah.
Um,
Glenn, we had this whole, did she tell you about the whole thing about the rose colored glasses?
No, I was about to put my hand up and say, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but
Well, we had this huge sort of, I would say it was a bit of a debate, because I was like, I like the concept of rose colored glasses, and Dr. James was like, oh no, we don't, that's not it. And I'm like, well, maybe not for you it isn't, but for me it is.
yeah, yeah,
But I saw his point because he was saying, we don't turn away, we don't put our heads in the sand. It's not like that. To me, I guess I misunderstood the idea of rose-colored glasses, and in a way that it's like looking at, a pile of garbage and seeing, I don't know.
Yeah.
I still struggle with it because I feel like rose-colored glasses is exactly the way I want to live.
Well, when we interviewed him for the podcast, I was trying to get a sense, I forget how the thing came up, but we got a really good idea of his like spiritual lineage coming from Eric Butterworth, and then the sort of equivalent in the religious
Walker.
science world, and then it kind of
Mhm.
when he shifted over from the New York to the West Coast, it changed again, and he's just developing all the time, right? But we learned things from him about, because he mentioned about Marianne Williamson coming from like the cabaret scene, which neither of us had any idea about that. Like she was doing her own thing separately, and then it kind of became what she is now, I guess. But one of the things I remember him saying was, I got to double check the actual wording, but he said about Buddhism, which he studied for quite a while too, that ultimately it's not for him, because its worldview is essentially, I think it's life could be a dream, shaboom shaboom. Like it's all like Maya.
Right.
It's all, which is kind of a, it's a little pithy, it's a little bit like, oh, whatever, but
Right.
it's got that grain of truth in it. But also you can sit in that grain of truth for a very long time and
Yeah.
think about like what is real, because everything's changing, and you get into the whole non-attachment thing, and it's impermanence and all that. There's
Yep.
beautiful states to be in and reflect on for as long as you want.
Yep.
But similar to the whole, I think what you're saying, rose-colored glasses, it's a bit like the Mrs. Pangloss in Candide, the Voltaire novel. Someone, it's the best of all possible worlds. That was her mantra all the time. And the what's the other one, Pollyanna, like that idea of,
Yeah, I think what he was trying to say, if tell me I'm right or not, Lesia. And it's Lasia or it's Lesia? Because I've been calling you Lesia, but is it more
Lesia
Lasia?
is correct. That's totally correct. I'll introduce myself as Lasia. I can tell you why another time, but Lesia is correct.
But Lesia, okay. So I think it's like this, like rose-colored glasses intimates that the truth is not that we're perfect, whole, and complete. I'm sorry to use that phrase, but and that you put the glasses on and that makes everything perfect, whole, and complete. Whereas I think what Dr. James is saying is like, you don't need the glasses. Everything is knowing the truth, is knowing, seeing from first cause, seeing from the universal, pulling out to that place of knowing that all is God expressing. You don't need the rose colored glasses in a way. Is that what I'm kind of
I
understanding?
think that's what he's getting at. I really, however, appreciate that entire debate happening, because it automatically actually made me think of when Amy Bishop was in town at CSL, and she did a talk and she did a whole thing around rose colored glasses, and she used that term the way that you did, and that's the way she was viewing life, and that's the way she was going forward
that's
in
a
life.
choice.
And
You
so
get to choose,
that,
right?
and that was it. And so for me, even though I totally get what he says, and I think when it comes down to the meaning of what rose colored glasses are about, that it is sort of a, just
Denial.
it's all good, it's all God, denial, spiritual bypass, whatever kind of thing.
But what's the difference between spiritual bypass and knowing the truth?
But
explain that to me.
You're still choosing, to take it in a certain way, right? And it's the way you perceive it that is important. And
can you explain to me what the difference between spiritual bypass and knowing the truth is?
Spiritual bypass to me is there's denial and ignoring. I don't know if
give me an example.
I
come to you with a condition.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, let's say depression. I come to you with depression and I say, I'm depressed. I can't get out of bed. I'm exhausted. I don't want to do my life anymore. What do you do as a spiritual practitioner? What is spiritual bypassing that versus knowing the truth?
This is a really good question, because now I'm thinking about it, and spiritual bypass, and maybe I'm not understanding it correctly, but spiritual bypass would be for me what I actually have experienced a lot from many practitioners, even ministers sometimes, where it's just kind of a gloss over band-aid solution of, doing a prayer and then it's just done and walking away from it, or then turning around and just going, now, how do you feel? And then just completely negating like the whole prayer that would have just been done, but the prayer not actually having power. And so knowing, and that's not knowing the truth to me. That's just like kind of this like little.
See, I think of spiritual bypass as somebody who would say, well, just think positively then if you're depressed.
Okay.
Why aren't you having positive thoughts?
Which is ignoring that someone is in actual, I guess this is sort of like, because treatment, you turn away from the condition. Okay.
Right.
Affirmative
Which
prayer,
to me is spiritual bypass. It's
well,
the
no,
essence of
but
it. You have to.
But leading up to the treatment, you're
maybe so it's like
that there's stuff going on.
Right. So before the treatment, it's being empathetic, being there. But he said empathy is, we don't have empathy.
And it's interesting, the definition of empathy. I mean, I will use compassion before I will use empathy.
Okay.
And his whole thing is don't get down in the muck with them.
Right.
Like acknowledge, listen, be there, support kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that's
I hear what you're saying. I hear you. I'm hearing from you that you're depressed. Reflect back almost in an imago way.
Yeah, instead of I'm so, like, you could even say like I'm sorry to hear that, but it's just like, oh, I remember a time when I was feeling that way too, and then just like going down that whole rabbit hole of being there in the muck with them. That's what he's talking about when he's talking about empathy, which is what practitioners don't do.
Right.
There's Glenn with his hand up.
Okay, so I just did a quick search. Someone wrote a blog on the Psychology Today. So let's go from a psychology standpoint rather than New Thought standpoint. Diana Raab, RAAB, PhD, in her The Empowerment Diary. The person who coined the term spiritual bypass, and John Wellwood had just passed. And so he defined spiritual bypassing as using spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep personal, emotional, in quotes, unfinished business, to shore up a shaky sense of self, or to belittle basic needs, feelings, and developmental tasks. The goal of such practices, he claimed, was enlightenment. I'm not sure that's completely clear, but
I get it.
so
It's
I think
like it's like spiritual bypass is ignoring the steps that we have to take. In other words, just think positively versus okay, well, you got to get out of bed and brush your teeth and,
right.
take the actions
It
necessary.
might be like in the territory between kind of um like doing shadow work, from the Jungian perspective.
Like not
It
ignoring the dark.
Yeah, like that's, you go really deep then, and you just and you feel the feelings, and it comes out of your body,
That's
and it's
right.
like you get it
Then you
out, right?
transform. Then you
And
transform.
then you're if you're transforming, but then
But I'm
also then
telling you, in New Thought, it's like there's no place for that. There's no place for the shadow work. It's
yeah.
really my biggest difficulty with knowing whether or not I will be. Well, I think this is where New Thought is going, though, and because I think New Thought is evolving, and you cannot. I mean, duality is what leaves room for like all of it. I feel like when you're in that place of oneness and wisdom and positive and joy and peace, and there's no room for sorrow, and there's no room,
Well, yeah, like, okay, so in quick plug here, in Lassia's book, Soul Excavation, there you go. Here's
which I'm reading.
An exploration and discovery of self through fear, failure, and quantum physics. One of the people who very graciously provided a little blurb / review was Maria Namath, whose book, The Energy of Money, I still haven't finished, but it's quite an amazing book. Her kind of mantra in terms of like just getting on with life is living with clarity, focus, ease, and grace. So we were talking earlier about the whole idea of hard work and how we are programmed to kind of go down that path of like, this is how you succeed. You can't get to the top of the mountain unless you do the hard work and all that. The first two, clarity and focus, I think you use those tools when we're dealing with things like the contrast, when we're dealing with things like actual difficulty in life. Either we're doing it through a experience with someone else, like we're experiencing it, or we're reacting to someone else who's going through hell in some way. So you want to focus on what is important, and you want, as you said about last year in the class, some of the people they're very clear on their answers and focusing on what Dr. James is like tending to talk about. So clarity and focus are the first two, and ease and grace is really more like your natural state if you allow, just be in the quantum
full
like
rainbow of life,
godness or whatever, right? But the first two are important because you still got to deal with car troubles or whatever it is, right?
That's right.
Okay. And to add to that, the other thing that Maria Namath, who was also on our podcast, and then when I was on hers, we talked about this too, because it's a huge thing in her book, The Energy of Money, Mastering Life's Energies. I haven't read, so I'm not sure, but I'm thinking would carry through there, is nevertheless, I am willing. Right. So that's part of this idea of, not spiritually bypassing things. It's that there is work involved, and whether that work is, feels hard, struggly, easy, graceful, perfectly unfolding, whatever sort of, adjective or adverb you want to use, to the choice is up to us in the way that we approach it.
I was gonna throw the word choice out there. I mean, that's ultimately what all this comes down to, is that life is gonna happen, and I get to choose how I'm gonna process it, how I'm gonna experience it, how I'm gonna And this is my mantra for CPR. I have it printed up all over my house. Just thought you guys would get a kick out of it. My life is easy, prosperous, and filled with joy.
Nice.
And it's
Right.
everywhere. It's like all over my
Yeah.
house. And it's combining all of this, right? Like that even when like the sorrow comes up, that I can go to that clarity of ease and find that joy underneath it. It's like the Native American saying that's, every tear carves out a deeper space for joy. I mean, that's another perspective of sorrow and of, those who have known the dark. I feel like the what is it, the darkness of the light chasers or whatever. I don't know anybody who's a bringer of light who doesn't struggle with some darkness, some doubt, some depression, some dark moods, some because I do feel like the light is just when you are just giving light, it's like
Mm.
there can be this void sometimes, this emptiness, this darkness that
The contrast, right? Like
contrasts,
there's
right.
context in the contrast. I just
That's right.
Rick Tamlin.
There's context in the contrast. Is that Rick Tamlin?
I don't know. I feel like that's something he would say.
Oh, we love him. That's another one in our class that's just every time he speaks, I'm like perked up,
Yeah.
But I like watching him also. If you look at his energy, he reminds me of me in that class in a way where it's like he has his knowledge and genius in another area.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of like sometimes we feel lost. I feel a little bit lost sometimes in the same way that Rick can feel lost, where it's like, I don't know if I know this technical term, or, I don't know if I know, but we're sort of living science of mind, of course, in our lives, and been studying it and been in centers for years and years and years. But I definitely see that like we have a similar energy around that. Does that make sense to you?
It totally makes sense.
Okay.
I would love to just circle back to the conversation a few minutes ago when we were talking about spiritual bypass. And I
Yes.
forgot that I have Reverend Kelly Bershinsky's thesis that he wrote on spiritual bypass
Oh,
few years
wow.
ago, which is amazing. And he was our very first guest ever on our podcast.
Oh, wow. How cool.
And the one line that comes up here is, when spirituality is implemented in order to avoid deep emotional work, its purpose is defeated. Such an effort is known as spiritual bypass. And in its essence, spiritual bypassing refers to any way in which we use our spirituality to bypass our painful emotions. And that's credited, that's a quote from someone called Rankin. I don't know who, but
like still, like to me, it's like if I'm having a difficult emotion and I call a practitioner and I say, I want this gone. Like, I don't want to feel this difficult emotion anymore. I'm ready to just let go. Like,
yeah.
How long do you know what I mean? It's like, what's the difference? The spiritual bypass it's all just semantics, right? But I do I've always kind of been, that's kind of, it can be my archetype sometimes, is the contrarian. And I hate to be like that, but
do you?
Sometimes these terms, I hate to be the contrarian, double negative. But I think that sometimes spiritual bypass is exactly what I need. I need somebody to just get me on that bypass, get me off that road.
Well, okay, you know what? I think sometimes there is a time and place. Glenn just wrote semantics or some antics in the chat.
I love it. He's a nerd
for it. Like, I feel like when I was watching the ministerial class give those TEDx like 10 talks, and then Dr. James makes this like drop this bomb in the middle of it.
Right.
I was like, oh, but I can't deal with that right now. So because it's time to like celebrate and know the truth for, all of these amazing ministerial students, that in essence was a spiritual bypass.
Right.
Shifting.
So there's a time and a place for a spiritual bypass.
I think there's a time and a place. And then I did process, and then look, it like became a part of my book. So
yeah. Well, I just don't think that processing is very much talked about in our
it's not. And there's even like Ernest Holmes, I'm pointing because my Science of Mind is over there, is there's a line in there about healing process, and no process of versus no process in. And it's an exam question that comes up often, and I got to remind myself which way it is.
What
But
is
it's
it?
basically like how long we decide, subconsciously or consciously, that we're going
Right.
to take to come back to knowing.
So it's like this, like to me, a quick processing can be a spiritual, but anyway, what
Well,
were you going to say, Glenn? I'm sorry.
I'm starting to come around. I don't have strong feelings either way. I'm not going to start a war and take a
Yeah.
side on it, but
I don't have a feeling either.
Amy's perspective is not just valid. I think it has a lot of currency to it in terms of like you could probably develop it into a whole play or whatever. But so when Lassie was saying in reacting to the 10 talks in which Dr. James says, oh, by the way, Lassia, just an aside, I'm just shattering your dreams for a second. But back to these fabulous people, aren't they wonderful? Like, now she could have gone a slightly different route and basically immediately, instead of even processing it as like, oh my God, what's going on? I'm going to have to change whatever. She could have just said no and realized from the truth of who we are, who she is, that there is no, right?
Right.
There's no no.
He will be teaching me
She could
ministerial
say
skills.
no to him saying
He could
no
say
to
he's
her.
not, but he will be.
Yeah. It's a bit like it's not like a courtship, but it's like it's a dance, but you could just say no, I'm going to do from yes, and this is what's going to go happen, and this is my and therefore the universe rearranges and brings it down to Dr.
Because that's
James.
really what happened, right?
Listen, Glenn, I don't know if he remembers this, but after that whole 10 talk thing finished, I sat down and I wrote a letter to Dr. James telling him he was going to teach ministerial and I was going to be in that class. And this is why, and the people he was going to attract, and how he's like sort of like the Rodin to like our spiritual sculptures within, just like helping to expose them and whatever. I never sent him the letter. Okay.
Oh,
I wrote
shut
the
up.
letter. I
Shut
never
up.
sent him the letter.
Do you still have it?
I do still have it.
You have to send that to him.
I maybe when we
or show it to all of us.
Graduating at the same time, you and I.
I know. I'm a year behind you.
But yeah, no, I will. And I think I told him, but I maybe didn't. But yeah, no, I wrote that. I thought I saw a cat. Do you have a white cat too? There was a cat.
I have a black, gray and white cat, and a tabby, and that.
I've seen some tails.
I collect them. I need to be very careful right now. I'm in the middle of a breakup, so I can't go near any places with kittens or kitty stores, or I collect them during heartbreak.
Anyway, so yeah, so I at least this trajectory that I'm on, my experience of it, I really feel like I had a huge, well, I mean, we have a hand.
Thank you.
We are the hand. I wrote that. We don't just have a hand, we are the hand.
Yeah, and I think that he's loving this class.
Yeah.
I think our class is amazing. I mean, I can't imagine a class being better than ours. So was it I mean, was it better than ours? Was it amazing? Was it Liza and
it was Liza, Eric, Tiffany, Karen Oxrider. It was all the heavyweights from GT. Yeah. And a few from
Dale.
Dale
was
in there.
Class?
Dale was in there. That's how I got to know Dale. That's how I got to know her. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm the whole reason. Do you know the whole story of why I'm in the class? Do you know what happened?
At the well, you know what,
conference,
I do. Tell it.
Tiffany and Eric were getting their ministerials, and I was the music director. And they had us, I don't know if you know the story, but they had us sit at a table randomly. They put our names on the seats and they said, for lunch today, you're going to go sit at a table with somebody you don't know, and you have to strike up a conversation, and you have to learn why you're there to meet that person. And I sat next to Tiffany. And of course, Tiffany's a mirror for me. We're both Jewish. We're both comedians. We're so many similarities. And I start to tell her about how I'm on my journey, and I'm like, congratulations on and she's like, oh my God, you have to get in his next class. Come with me now, right now. And she grabbed me and jerked me over to James's table. And it was like boom, 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 boom. And he was like, yes, yes, yes. And the education director from Emerson was there.
Yeah.
So it was like sort of like, and she was like, okay, well, James can, be your filter through all this stuff that you're, and James was just like, yes, like, please. It was crazy. It was just the way it happened was crazy.
Amazing.
It was wild.
Yeah. And here we are.
and that we were in the middle of the country at the Unity Village.
Yeah.
I'm from North Carolina. He's in California. It's wild. It's a wild story. And I know it feels exactly right. It feels exactly right to be.
Yeah.
And then of course he's like, start practicing your Tony speech now, like he's like, we'll write the musical for blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. And, I think that, whether or not that happens, it comes back to this ambitions and dreams and hopes and thoughts and feelings. Like he just sparked, and he has a way of doing that.
Oh,
and he
yeah.
just sparked my flame back up. It was like, you're a genius, Amy. Like you can have a Tony if you want one. Do you want one? I haven't had mine yet. We can get them together. Like, he's just that person that reignites those dreams. I remember I came back from that trip and I was like, I had a new lease on life. I started recording my record soon after that, I think. I just became alive again. And I think, and that's how I look at this ministerial class. It's like, I don't know if I'll ever be a public minister. I just don't know. But like, I'm in this class to grow my spiritual self, to grow my consciousness, to be as great as I can be, whatever that means, to express as much as I can. And I'm just so excited to come out there and see him and see all of you. Are you going to be able to make it? Oh no, you're not. Dang it.
That's why I keep posting. And when are you coming up to Victoria? When you come
and
to
aren't
Island
you
for your West
near
Coast tour?
Seattle? Is that where you are? I'm so bad with.
Yeah. We're just like when we look across the water, we see the American mountains.
Okay. So I have connections in Seattle and Portland, and I usually make a trip to the Northwest, like whenever I make a new record. So I will plan on coming to see you as well.
And you know
it
what?
might not be till fall, but
even though I am not officially a CSL Victoria member, I mean, I'm still connected with the community, and I know that they would love to have you, in their space. So
I'd love to. And whenever I go up there, I go play with Kathy Ann and Abigail.
Okay.
Do you ever go to CSL Seattle?
No, never been.
Oh, you should check it out. It's right there.
Yeah.
Abigail's one of my closest friends, and she's perhaps set in line to take over for Kathy Ann. Oh. She's Kathy Ann's assistant minister now, or co-minister now. And, Kathy Ann's about to step off, and it's just a beautiful community. Like you would love it. You would love it.
She's a very close friend of Reverend Carrie Hunter, who's the director here at
Kathy Ann
Victoria. Kathy Ann Lewis. Okay,
and
she was one of the ministers that I contacted about practitioner studies, but ended up with Dr. James. So
I'm so glad you ended up with Dr. James. We're so lucky. I do feel that weird thing that he said that day where he was like the lineage, like from Ernest Holmes to David Walker to James Mellon to you. Like we're 5 steps away from Ernie, I just feel it. Yep. Like I feel so honored to be learning from James, who learned from David Walker, who learned from Ernest Holmes. Like it's just, I feel very, very, very privileged. Very privileged.
Oh yeah. Me too. Okay, so here we are after a little tiny pee break, and with all of that talk of like, what do you really, really want, and treatment and spiritual bypass and the lineage, from Ernest Holmes down to us, the steps and whatever. There's an amazing song that Amy's going to sing for us right now that I think is going to just like really inspire us all to keep moving forward.
This song was inspired by listening to my ministers that when I was working in Charlotte, I was with Reverend Christy Snow and Reverend Renee Laboa, and they would give these awesome talks, and I would write these raps based on the talks right then that Sunday. So I went back through all of my journals, and I picked all of my favorite nuggets from all of their talks over like 2 years, and that's what creates the song One Step, which is to me Science of Mind 101. So if you happen to be listening to this podcast or watching this and you don't know what the heck Science of Mind is, this is it. This is the nutshell of it. One step, one step. Old-time religion is a box I do not fit in. I am metaphysical, I am transcendent. Change a situation by changing your mind. Raise the vibration by knowing you are divine. Make a mental path, one step, repeat. I surrender to the presence of God in me. Make a mental path, one step, repeat. I am practicing the presence of the goddess in me. Oh. What do you believe? You've got to know your truth. Pure potential possibility, that is you. When you stand in opposition, you perpetuate the thing. Would you resist? Persist, so let life be what you bring. I make a mental path, one step, repeat. I surrender to the presence of God in me. Make a mental path, one step, repeat. Practicing the presence of the goddess in. Oh, make a mental path, one step, just do. Surrender to the presence of the God in you. Make a mental path, one step, just do. I'm practicing the presence of the goddess in you. Oh, you are such a goddess, and you are such a god. Follow your intuition and the passion that you got. Be pulled by your vision, don't get pushed by your thoughts. Everything experienced is energetic, so be aware of energy you give and you get it out of the routine. Slip into observer state. Change your mind by changing habits. Choose a different way. Say fuck yes to your highest and your best, 'cause what you desire you can straight up manifest. I make a mental path, one step, repeat. I surrender to the presence of God in me. Make a mental path, one step, repeat. I'm practicing the presence of the, oh, do not be afraid. You are the life of love. Yeah, you are the life of love. One step. One step, oh, it only takes one step. One step, oh, It's the podcast version.
Oh.
Oh, I just love that song. I first heard it when you played it in class for an assignment that we did, which was to just sort of go over the meaning.
First four chapters.
The first four chapters
That
of
was
the
my way of
science
bypassing.
And then I heard the full-on version. I don't know.
Oh, and that was
album
my
it's
worst.
from.
That was my biggest critique from James that day. He was like,
Yeah.
that didn't, no. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, and the rest
Remember,
of the
my heart
are
was
like,
broken that day. I was like, oh gosh, I think I got an F on that one, but I just didn't want to go like, this is chapter 1, this is chapter 2, this is chapter 3. And of course, you were like impeccable for that. I wish I had a recording actually of your.
We have a
answer.
recording. We have recordings of all the classes.
That's right. But I need like those words typed out somewhere so that I can refer to them whenever anybody's like, what are the first 4 chapters? What is how, the thing itself, how it works. You just like nailed it like A+, like it was annoying how perfect it was.
Well, but that was also,
I remember you were so unrehearsed. You just spoke
because he thought you said, I want to go. And he's like, Amy. And then you're like, no, I want to go next week. And then I'm like, I'll go. Cause yeah. So, but I just wanted to get it done too. Cause I was talking about our friend Phyllis dying and it just, So, but it was practical application.
And that's one of those moments where I want you to remember like how much this stuff is in you. Like it just flowed out just perfect. And I was like, oh, can I borrow that?
And the number of times I'm like, I want to be you.
Well, and then, what's amazing? We are each other. We are. I see in you the light that's in me and reversed, right? We're such great mirrors. Yep. It's like we're a reversed mirror, right? Because like I'm like all these like bright color and you're like this grounded like earth tones and like the clarity of look at your pictures like lined up. We're perfect mirrors. Like it's perfect. I love you. Sorry, Glenn. We're not leaving you out of this love affair. We're just it's 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 ministerial class. It does it.
Okay, so listen, we could keep talking for sure 100%. And man, I would love to talk again, but let's
Yeah, we need to talk like just me and you offline.
yes, totally. Yes, please.
I know. And we talked about a lesson and we talked about all kinds of stuff.
Oh, okay. So to be continued, to be expanded upon,
Yes.
to be expanded by.
Love those earrings. Need
for-
those earrings.
Thank you. For now, though, we're going to start moving towards the end of the show. And so
Okay.
we're moving into the next segment, which Glenn is going to take over. And this is
Okay.
called the super rapid fire question round.
Okay, good. Yay. Okay. I
Okay.
love this.
So
I
get
love
your
this kind of
hand on
stuff.
your buzzer. This is where for 1 minute, Glenn is going to bombard you with questions, and we want just top of
Gut.
mind answers, no
Okay,
deep thought
shit.
or contemplation, anything. Okay.
All
Oh,
right.
I put oh, look at this calculator. I need a clock.
I hope I got some good answers in me.
You have all the answers within, Amy.
I'm connected to
And some
all
of this
that
may
is.
hurt, by the way.
0. Okay, Honey Bunch, are you ready?
Yes.
And begin.
Amy, do you sing in the car?
Yes.
Now, which do you prefer? Performing music or dancing to music?
Performing music, 100.
Okay, Yoda or Gandalf?
Both.
Tom
I'm a
Jones or
full-blown nerd.
Tom Jones or Tom Petty?
Tom Petty. Cried when he died. Sobbed
Cats or
my face off.
dogs?
Both. I mean, I'm bipetual.
Okay, asking for help or going it alone?
Asking for help. I'm an extrovert.
Walking on the beach or in a forest?
Neither. Sitting still in a mall. No, a beach at night. A beach at
Okay.
night. A beach at night.
Okay, Pink Floyd or Gary Lynn Floyd?
Oh, that's insane. That's absolutely unfair. Both.
Okay, swearing or hitting a pillow?
Swearing.
Bugs Bunny or the Marx Brothers?
Both.
Ding,
Sorry,
ding,
I'm
ding,
a lot.
ding,
I'm so bi. I'm so bi everything.
ding, ding, ding.
You're like Paul Levy.
Glenn, tell her what she's won.
Okay, this is what you have won. Quotes. Okay, from the book. It's one of these books where Jesus talks through a person. Love Without Conditions: The Reflections of the Christ Mind by Paul Ferrini. You may have
I'm
heard
getting
it.
that book, or I'm getting a quote.
No, you're getting a quote.
Okay, let me hear.
You're getting my voice speaking to you. And
I
for some
understand.
reason, I flagged this one earlier on gratitude. So we are grateful that you're here.
Mm.
Basically a page long. You cannot mention abundance without also mentioning gratitude. Gratitude stems from worthiness and supports the experience of abundance. On the other hand, ungratefulness and resentment stem from unworthiness and reinforce the perception of scarcity.
Mm.
Each is a closed circle. To enter the circle of grace, you need to bring your love to yourself or another. To enter the circle of fear, you need to withhold love from yourself or another.
Mm.
When you stand inside of one circle, the reality of the other circle comes into question. This is why you often have the sense that there are two mutually exclusive worlds in your experience.
Mm.
The grateful cannot imagine being unjustly treated. The resentful cannot imagine being loved by God. Which world would you inhabit? It is your choice. In every moment, you must decide to play the victim or remember that you cannot be unfairly treated. In the former case, you will resent the gift and see it as a punishment. In the latter, you will accept what comes your way, knowing that it brings a blessing you cannot yet see. Finally, gratitude is the choice to see the love of God in all things. No being can be miserable who chooses thus. For the choice to appreciate leads to happiness, as surely as the choice to depreciate leads to unhappiness and despair. One gesture supports and uplifts, the other devalues and tears down. So there you go.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Paul
Perfect. Thank you.
Ferrini.
That's an amazing gift.
Okay.
I can never get enough on gratitude. Honestly, it's my favorite tool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for you having me today.
So
Thank you.
absolutely thrilled and delighted that you are here with us. Just what an amazing conversation, could go on forever, and in several different quantum realities is
It
continuing
has.
on and on and on and on. So
Let's
Amy
plant that
Steinberg.
seed firmly, really quick. Let's plant the seed firmly that I'm coming to see you in the fall.
Okay.
Let's just plant the seed firmly
All right.
in the mind of God, in the mind, in the quantum field, that the fall will bring us having a three-way hug. Because we'll
All
be
right.
so well physically. There will be no talk of the big P pandemic. It shall be,
Yeah. The fall of 2023.
yes,
Okay.
Okay, it's
fall of
on.
2023. It's happening.
And so it
and
is.
so it is.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so
Love you.
Amy Steinberg, thank you so much for being our super special guest today. What an amazing, rich, fantastical conversation. Just, in no particular order, gratitude, choices, the two amazing songs that you sung, a new one, Love's Life, and then an older one, One Step, kind of bookending, this entire amazing conversation together. The line that I absolutely loved out of Love's Life, each ending is bending its way to unstart. From a quantum perspective, every single moment is a brand spanking new moment, brand
right, new
spanking new
start.
opportunity to heal, to grow, to expand, to learn, to be, to become. So
Yes.
thank you for all of it, your stories, your jokes, your humor, your love, your color, your vibrancy,
Oh, I
just
love
like
you.
everything you are, I absolutely adore. And I'm so grateful that we are in each other's lives right now. Thank you, Mahoney,
100%
for
back at you.
thank you, Mahoney, for co-steering the ship. And thank you, everyone who, however you have tuned in, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on one of the podcast platforms. So grateful. Amy, tell people if they wanted to get in touch with you, find out more about you. What do they do? Where do they go?
Absolutely. Well, I have this new CD coming out the beginning of March, and I'd love for you to check it out. It's called Big Bang Breaks. It is having an S on the end of it. Big Bang Breaks, with the concept being that when things are exploding and breaking, new worlds are born, whether it's the heart that's breaking or the plans that are breaking or whatever's happening, new things are being born at all times. And I'll be traveling all over. You want to check me out on House of Love and Light, Asheville, houseofloveandlight.org, or on Facebook Live. I go live at 4:44 Eastern Time, which is 1:44 Pacific, on Sunday afternoons for a live presentation that I am so proud of each and every week. I'll be having a CD release here in Asheville in March, and I'll be just playing all over. So if you want me to come to your city, please email me. My email is steinberglove@gmail.com, which looks like Steinberg glove, which always makes me think of Michael Jackson. And that's because I have ADD. And I love you. Steinberglove@gmail.com. Bring me to your city. Let's do this.
All right. Amazing.
Wonderful.
Thank you. This has been another episode of Who Do You Think You Are? Stay tuned. Another episode coming up in about 2 weeks' time. Thank you so much. We love you and appreciate you and are so grateful for each and every one of you. Mwah. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
This has been an episode of Who Do You Think You Are? An exploration into how our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings create our reality. My name is Lassia Cahoot, and I have been your host. My co-host has been Glenn Sheridan. We'd like to thank the following for helping make this podcast a reality. Today's special guest, Amy Steinberg. Music, Vasco Lorenco, copyright 123rf.com. Background illustration, Sakma Sterke, copyright 123rf.com. For more information on this podcast and our Lassia Cahoot Soul Excavator, please visit www.lassiacahoot.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what you just heard. We invite you to like, subscribe, and or let us know by leaving a comment. Thanks for tuning in to Who Do You Think You Are?